Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Grace. It is lovely to have you here. I am in the middle of quite a few series right now. Some long, some short, some completely finished and out into the world, and some that are still in the process of coming out. And I thought that it would just be good fun to tier rank the series that I'm in the middle of by how excited I am to finish them. I've never done a tier ranking before. I've watched a lot of them, but I've never made one myself, and I always think they look really fun to do. If you see me looking down at all, it's because my laptop is down here. But first off, I want to go through and explain all of the tiers that I have. Top of the list is Give It To Me Now. I have to read it right now or as soon as the book comes out. I'm really excited, and nothing except for publisher delays will come between me and reading the rest of this series. Just below that we have High Hopes. I'm pumped, I'm excited. I maybe don't have to read it straight away. Maybe I can wait for the right moment. I have a lot of books that even though I am really excited to read them and I have high expectations, I'll put off because I think I need to find the right moment. So this is still a really great tier. I just don't feel that need to get there right now and inject it into my bloodstream. Under that one we have I'll get to it when I get to it. So series that I am looking forward to finishing and I've enjoyed so far, but I don't really feel any kind of rush about. I'll just wait until I'm in the mood to get to the next one. And maybe there are some other books that are just a bit higher on my list. Under that we have Cautiously Optimistic. So this is for the series where I do think I will enjoy the rest of them, but something is making me a little bit nervous. Be it that the books that I have read, there was something missing or something that didn't quite sit right with me, even though I generally enjoyed them, or in some cases the series is just quite intimidating or maybe not even finished and I'm a little bit scared that it might not be finished. I'm thinking about one in particular. Under that we have Dragging My Feet. So this is for the books that I know I want to finish the series, maybe I already have them on my shelves, but I'm not that pumped. For some reason or another, I'm just not that excited. So they probably are a little lower on my list, and maybe I didn't love the first ones in the series but just feel like I need to finish the series, or there's something that's putting me off. And then right at the bottom we have Under Duress. This is, I think there's only one book that's going in this category. I don't think there's anything else that will go in here, but I had to make a tier for that one because this is for books that I don't want to read. I would not choose to of my own volition, but some external force has decided that I must finish this series against my will. I'll explain more on that one later. Just as a note as well, I am only going to be talking about books and series here that I do plan on finishing, whether that be by my own choice or someone else's. But I'm not going to be talking about series that I have DNF'd, I plan on DNFing, mostly because I just feel mean. And I'd also be here for a long time. I have DNF'd quite a few series in my time, and not always because I disliked them. I often just felt like the first book or the first few books were enough. And there are so many books to read in the world, you know? I have to be quite picky. So yeah, I just want to talk about books that I am going to finish. But within those, there's definitely a scale of how excited I am. Okay, so let's get into it. Oh, first up we have a really good one. We have the Emily Wilde series. I have talked about this before. I've read the first book in the series. I adored it. I loved it so much. This is kind of light academia fantasy, which is a perfect vibe for me. I'm not so much into the dark academia, largely because I'm a huge wimp and I like kind of the light and fluffy vibe, but with that academic side, and the romance in here is great, the main character's great. So yeah, I'm really excited to get to Map of the Other Lands. But I have had it for a little while now and I haven't read it yet, so I can't really put it in Give It To Me Now. But I am really excited to read it, so I'm gonna put this one in High Hopes. And next on the list we have Godkiller, or I think it's the Fallen Gods series. I actually finished the first book in this series literally last night, and I did really enjoy it. It took me quite a while to read. I don't think that was the book's fault. I just had a lot of other things I was reading in the meantime, but I did really enjoy it overall, and I'm definitely gonna read the next one. I have got it already, but I don't know if this is just me. I like to leave a bit of a gap between books in series, unless it's something like it ended on a cliffhanger and I have to know right now. It's rare that that happens to me though. Maybe I would enjoy series more if I read them back to back, but something in me is like, no, I need a break now. I need to be in a different world for a bit. So I don't feel an urge to get to the second one right away, even though I did enjoy the first one. I don't know, maybe I need to test that out. But for now, I feel like, I think I'm gonna put it like at the top of I'll get to it when I get to it. Ooh, next we have The Priory of the Orange Tree. I wasn't sure whether to include this because you can definitely read it as a standalone, but it does still feel like a series, you know, even though the other one is a prequel. They're very much interconnected lore-wise, I think. But I really enjoyed Priory. I think I am nervous to get to the second one for the obvious reason of it being huge. These books are bricks. They're scary. I'm sure I will enjoy it. I am slightly worried that it could just be quite repetitive because we already know what's happened because it is a prequel and it's kind of telling the tale of the mythology that was explored in Priory, or some of it at least. So I don't know, I think I am going to enjoy it, but I think I'm probably going to put this one in cautiously optimistic. Oh no. Okay, so we have Six of Crows. I enjoyed this book. I didn't love it. I had a decent time. I think my expectations were too high. Everyone told me that I was going to be obsessed with this book, and I just heard so much hype about it, and I thought it was decent. It was alright. I wasn't hugely invested in the characters. Like, I had a fun time, but I wasn't racing through. Oh, please don't yell at me. I honestly think that I enjoyed the Shadow and Bone series more, though I don't know if that's just because I went into those books with no expectations whatsoever and then was surprised by how much I liked them in comparison, whereas with Six of Crows I had really high expectations and it was decent. I do want to read the second one. I've heard some people say that they actually prefer Crooked Kingdom to Six of Crows, so maybe I'll be one of those people. I'm gonna put it in cautiously optimistic because I don't know, I feel a lot of pressure to like this series and I'm scared that overall I won't, because I kind of just thought the first book was pretty alright. Anyway, moving on. We have Sorcerer to the Crown, which I talked about recently. I really enjoyed this book, but I honestly didn't know that this was a series until I started the research for this video. I knew the author had written other books that were kind of set in the same world, but I didn't know that they were considered like a series. But it seems like they are, and there is overlap between this and the next one. So I do definitely want to read it because I really enjoyed the first one. This is like a Regency fantasy, which is very much my vibe. I really enjoy that setting and that crossover between sort of period drama and fantasy, magic. Two of my favorite things. But I feel hesitant to add new books to my reading list because I didn't know that I needed to read the second book. It's called The True Queen, the second one, and I didn't know I needed to read it until just now, so I'm gonna put it in. I'll get to it when I get to it because I definitely do want to read it, but I have other things that I really want to get to soon. Oh, okay, next up we have the one, the only, Legendborn. I love this series so much. I devoured the first two books. I read the second one as soon as it came out, and I plan on doing the same with the third, although I would really like to reread the first two beforehand this time, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit lost reading that second book. I'd definitely forgotten some keynotes from the first book in the series, but I still really enjoyed it, so I am very excited for the next one in the series. I think that there are gonna be 4 at the moment. Don't quote me on that. But this is a YA fantasy series that if you haven't read, oh, it's so incredible. It has such interesting themes. It explores racism and generational trauma within this teen setting, and yet the books are just so fun and fast-paced. I just race through them and I cannot wait to continue this series. So yeah, this is going straight into Give It To Me Now. Next on the list is Anne of Green Gables. Now this is one of my favourite books of all time. I adored this book. It is so lovely, but I have also heard that the author originally wanted it to be a standalone, and their publisher kind of pressured them into writing the rest of the series because the first one did so well. So that makes me a little bit nervous to read the rest of them. I do want to, just so that I can give my own opinion, and I did love the first one, so I probably will enjoy the rest of them, but the first one probably could also just stand on its own, and the fact that the author kind of thought that as well is a little bit worrying. So I think I'm gonna put this at the top of cautiously optimistic. Oh, okay, so next up we have Raybearer. I read this book several years ago now and I really enjoyed it. This is an African-inspired fantasy with a lot of interesting feminist themes. It's a young adult novel. I had a really good fun time. It had some interesting character choices and things went in ways that I wouldn't have normally expected a young adult novel to go. So it was a really interesting read. I honestly don't know why I haven't read the second one yet. It's on my shelf waiting for me. I do really want to read this soon. I think I'm gonna actively choose right now to bump this up to high hopes. I want to get to this soon. Oh wow, okay, next up we have a throwback. I don't know if any of you guys read the Septimus Heap series when you were younger or recently, no judgment here, but it was one of my favorite series of all time. This is kind of a classic kids wizard series, but I read these when I was sort of 8 to 10 probably, and for some reason I never finished the series. I read all the way up to the last book and didn't finish it. I think there are 7 or 8. I didn't read the last one even though I really enjoyed them. I remember them getting quite dark towards the end, which maybe was a little bit scary for me at the time, but I did really love this series and I still own them all and I have got the last book, so I put this on there because I really do want to finish this series, but that will mean rereading all of the other books in the series that I haven't read for years, so that does make me a little bit nervous, partially just because it's quite an undertaking, and also because what if they don't live up to my memories of them? So yeah, I'm gonna put this one in cautiously optimistic. Please let me know if you've read the Septimus Heap books because they were so good and I would love someone to talk to you about them. Oh, okay, next up we have The Winner's Curse, or The Winner's Trilogy, I think the series is called, by Marie Rutkoski. I adore Marie Rutkoski. She's one of my favorite authors of all time. She wrote the Midnight Lie series, duology. Midnight Lie is one of my favorite books ever. I will read anything she puts out except for the one thriller that she's put out because I'm too scared, but if it was any other genre, I would read anything she puts out. And I've read the first 2 books in this trilogy and I do not know why, but it's been over a year since I read the second one and I still haven't gotten to the third one. I think I've been saving it as kind of like a book for a rainy day when I felt like I really needed to get out of a reading slump or a little pick-me-up, because I do adore this series. It's been too long, definitely. I definitely need to finish this one soon and I am really excited. I know I'm gonna love it because I love Marie Rutkoski's writing and this is very much a political intrigue, which is one of my favorite types of plots. I really get hooked on those kind of stories, but I'm gonna put this one up in high hopes. I'm gonna put this at the top of high hopes because it is one of my favorite series ever. Oh, next up we have Nevermoor, the Nevermoor series, which is a kids middle grade fantasy. I am loving this series. It's so whimsical and fun and really well written. I've only read the first 2. There are 3 out currently and a 4th one on the way, but it's been delayed quite a bit. So yeah, I am really excited to finish this series. I am really enjoying them and I do want to get to the third one before the fourth one comes out so that I can jump into the next one. I'm gonna put this in high hopes. Oh, okay, next up we have a graphic novel series, the Tea Dragon series, starting with the Tea Dragon Society. That's the only one I've read in the series so far. This is just a really cozy fantasy graphic novel about dragons that can brew tea with leaves that they grow off of their bodies, and the tea has magical properties that they can share with their owners? Friends? I can't remember what the word is. But this is very cozy, very sweet. I really enjoyed the first one, and the illustrations are really cute as well. I definitely want to finish the series, but I think I don't feel any particular rush to get to it. I think I will just enjoy it when I do, and it will be a cozy little afternoon read. It won't take very long at all. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in. I'll get to it when I get to it. Ooh, okay, so next up we have A Psalm for the Wild-Built, or the Monk and Robot series, I think it's called. It's just a duology and they're really short novellas, but this is kind of cozy sci-fi. The second one is called A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and I really enjoyed the first one, so I definitely want to get to the second one pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put this one in high hopes. Okay, so next up we have the Paladin's Grace series. I read this earlier this year. It was actually in my winter 24-hour reading vlog, and I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I really enjoyed it. This is very much a romantasy. It's kind of focused on the romance aspect, and I think all of the books in this series can stand alone in terms of the romance that's involved, but there is kind of a through thread of plot in there. The first one left it off on a little bit of a cliffhanger in terms of the underlying plot and mystery that's going on in the background. So I do definitely want to read the next ones in the series, partly to finish that thread and also just because I really enjoyed the first one. I'm gonna put it in, I'll get to it when I get to it, because I do really like this one, but I'm not in any rush, you know? Oh no. Okay, so next on the list we have the one, the only, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, I read the first book in this series years ago. I think it was like 2018 that I read this one, and I hated it. I really didn't like it. It was sort of fine most of the way through, but towards the end of the book there were some character choices that were made that I just thought were really stupid. It really got on my nerves and just wasn't for me, I don't think. And I have read, because I was curious about what happened next, I read kind of the plot summaries of the next few books, and I've watched Carrie Can Read's videos of them, so I know what happens in the rest of the series. But recently, a recent turn of events that I did not foresee. I made my boyfriend read this series. I only made him read the first one, expecting him to probably not like it either. Partly because I thought it would be funny, and partly because he loves fantasy, romance, and wants to kind of write in that genre himself. So I thought it would be good for him to know about probably the most popular fantasy romance in existence. But he enjoyed it. He had problems with the first one, but he enjoyed it enough to carry on with the series, and he loved the next two, and then the novella, and just the series overall. And he recently won a bet with me, basically, that means that I now have to finish the series myself. I have no choice. So this is the one that I made the under duress category for. I don't know. I'm probably gonna make a video about me reading the rest of this series because I am really intrigued. I know that everyone says they get a lot better after the first book. The next ones in the series are so much better. And it's always been really strange to me that people have said that, because I'm like, how did you all get to that conclusion though? Do you not just give up after the first book if you don't like that one? It's a bizarre social phenomenon to me, this series. But I do want to go into the rest of the series with an open mind. But at the same time, I would not read this series by choice. So I'm gonna put this in under duress. Okay, next up, on a happier note for me, is Howl's Moving Castle. This is one of my favourite books of all time, the original book. I've only read the first one, and the next ones, I honestly don't know how much of a series they are. I know that there is some crossover with the next books in the series and the first one, but I think that they can kind of stand on their own, and the main characters from Howl aren't fully involved, as far as I know. So I am excited for them, but I kind of have no idea what to expect other than some really great writing from Diana Wynne Jones. So I think I'm gonna put them in, I'll get to it when I get to it, but like pretty near the top. I do know that I will enjoy them, but I don't know if I'll enjoy them as much as I loved Howl. We'll see. Ooh, okay, so next up we have the Simon Snow series by Rainbow Rowell. This is an interesting one. I used to be a Rainbow Rowell diehard stan when I was a teenager. Fangirl was my favourite book of all time. I must have read that book 5 times. I was obsessed. I loved everything she wrote. I've read all of her adult novels. I've read Fangirl and Eleanor and Park and the first 2 books in the Carry On series, and I have the 3rd one. But for one thing, I kind of felt like Carry On could have been a standalone on its own. I really enjoyed that first book and the second book was alright, but I kind of felt like it could have just been its own thing. It didn't really need a sequel. And also, I've heard some pretty questionable things about Rainbow Rowell's behaviour in recent years, and also looking back on some of the things that she wrote as an adult with more critical thinking skills. She made some choices, shall we say, especially in Eleanor and Park. A lot of people have come to her with their problems about that book. One of the main characters is Korean American and it's not presented in the best way. She definitely wrote some things in there that were quite offensive, and people have brought this to her attention and she's just kind of ignored them. So it's not a good look, and I don't really feel any need to pick up her books in the future, which is a shame because I do love her writing style. But this one I already have on my shelf and I've started the series, so I probably will finish it at some point. But I am very much dragging my feet on this one. It's kind of, I'll read it because it's there and I've nearly finished the series anyway. But, Okay, so next up is the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. I adore Terry Pratchett. He is one of my favourite writers ever, but I do find him a little bit hit or miss. One of his books, Small Gods, is one of my favourite books of all time, but I have read the first 4 books in the Discworld series. I went back after reading Small Gods and tried to do it in order, even though there are many different orders you can read the Discworld series in. And none of them have hit for me the way that Small Gods did. I think he was an incredibly clever writer and so witty, which is such a skill to have. And he made a lot of interesting commentary as well within these books. But I don't always connect with the characters in his stories. I did very much connect with the characters in Small Gods, and it was that combination of the feeling and heart to it with the cleverness and how funny the writing was that made me adore that book so much. But the other books I've read of his so far have had less of that heart for me. They've very much been funny and clever, but I've been less emotionally invested. So I definitely do want to get to the rest of the books in this series. I say that like it's an easy thing. There are a lot, but I am nervous. I don't know if I will like any of them as much as I like Small Gods. Maybe I will later in the series. But again, I'm also kind of nervous about just the volume of books that I will need to read to complete the series. So it's definitely going in cautiously optimistic. Next up is another middle grade series, and that is Fireborn by Aisling Fowler. I love the first book in this series. I am still reading the second one. If you've seen my 24-hour reading vlog, do not judge me. I started reading it in that vlog and I still haven't finished it. And that's not because I'm not enjoying it. I really am. I just have had a lot of other books to read and it's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, but I definitely want to pick it back up and finish it, and I'm really excited for the next book in this series to come out. I think that this is one of the best middle grade series that I have read so far. I think that the character development in these is really fun. So yeah, I think I'm gonna put this in high hopes. And then we have Assassin's Apprentice, the Farseer trilogy, the Realm of the Elderlings in general. I have only read the first book in this series. I actually read it as research for my dissertation at university, or I started to at least, and I finished it. after I turned my dissertation in. I did enjoy this one. It was very much a slow read. It took a while for me to get into, but I did enjoy it. It was well written, and I know that there is so much love for this series and people are so invested in them. A lot of people, Robin Hobb is their favourite author ever, so I definitely do want to get to the rest of this series, but I don't feel a rush personally because I did enjoy the first one, but I wasn't obsessed. You know? I don't know, there's a part of me that wonders if once I really do sink my teeth into this series I will become obsessed, but for now I'm gonna put it in, I'll get to it when I get to it. Okay, then we have Legends and Lattes. This is another one where the other book in the series is a prequel, which makes me a little bit nervous for this one. I did enjoy the first book. It was very cozy, very low stakes, but that was what I signed up for, and it was just a good fun time. But the fact that we're learning about Viv's past, I have faith that Travis Baldry will pull me through and give me a fun cozy time, but I'm kind of nervous that it's gonna feel like maybe Viv has some like cozy epiphanies in this book and then takes a step back for a few years before ending up at the place she is in Legends and Lattes. Maybe I'm totally misinterpreting this one, but I am a little bit nervous. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm gonna put it in cautiously optimistic. Okay, so then we have the Kingkiller Chronicles. I can't say it. The Kingkiller Chronicles. There we go. These are huge, iconic fantasy books. I have read the first one in the series. I have not read the second one or either of the novellas, even though I own all of them. I really enjoyed the first one. I read it a few years ago now. I thought the writing was gorgeous. The storytelling was wonderful. It was one of those stories where it's less traditionally arced in terms of plot. It's not so much like a classic plot mountain. It's more you just hear about the character's life and things that happen to them one by one, and I love that. I really enjoy that style of storytelling, but there were some things that I found questionable in here. Even a few years ago, when my critical thinking skills were not what they are now, the way that women are handled in this book, I know there have been a lot of debates about it, but I did have some problems with the low number of female characters in this book. There were a few, but the ones that we did have kind of fit into classic archetypes rather than feeling like properly well-rounded characters. There is very much an argument to be made for the idea that Patrick Rothfuss is kind of self-inserted himself here as the main character who just kind of gets all the girls, is super cool and powerful. I have some qualms about this series, and also there is the chance that it might just not get finished at this point. It has been many years since the second book in the series came out, and Patrick has been promising us that third one, but here we are, so I don't know. I'm scared. I do think that I will enjoy the rest of the series, but I am very nervous. I'm gonna put this one like right at the bottom of cautiously optimistic. And last but not least, we have the lovely Heartstopper. This is an iconic graphic novel series. You all know. I have read all of the books in this series that have come out so far, and I am impatiently awaiting the fifth one. This isn't by any means like my favourite series of all time, but as a graphic novel series, it's lovely, and I think that it's had a huge impact, especially on young LGBT readers. I think that this is something that would have been great for me to have around when I was a teenager. The show is great as well. I found the second series a teeny bit cringy, but the books I've really enjoyed so far and I haven't had that problem with. So I'm really looking forward to the fifth and final book, and I'm gonna read it as soon as it comes out. I know I'm just gonna devour it and cry, so I'm gonna put this one in Give It To Me Now. So there we have it, folks. That is all of the series that I'm in the middle of, but let me know if you have read any of these series or any of the books in them. If there are any on this list that you've finished, please let me know your non-spoilery thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you think. And if you think that there are any that I really need to get into soon, then hype me up for them. Give me that burst of energy to get to them soon. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little tier ranking, baby's first tier ranking. I had a pretty fun time. But I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye bye.